It's my pleasure to welcome Dr. J. Patrick Rains to Scrubbing In. Dr. Rains, I want to thank you for taking a few minutes out of your busy day at the Massey School to come over and chat with us.
Lee, I appreciate the opportunity to get out of the office.
Excellent, excellent. You know, we were talking off camera before we started, and we were kind of sharing about people's, in Nashville, they always have like 2 business cards. And, you know, that's one of the unique things about our culture here in Nashville, and I wanted you to see if you could comment on how that, you know, impacts our business community here.
Well, we are a very entrepreneurial community. We have really the most entrepreneurial ecosystem of any city that I know of. And at Belmont, we started about 15 years ago, so I think we were a little bit ahead of the national curve in terms of offering entrepreneurship programs and curriculum. We developed an undergraduate curriculum back in 2003, and from there it took off. It's now our largest major. At Belmont, we've got over 125 majors in entrepreneurship, probably half that many that are minoring. It's without a doubt the most popular minor for our music business students who now, with the studios having disappeared in the role of having to produce and generate their own revenue stream. So we grew that program. We started a graduate program in entrepreneurship. That's a little unusual because employers don't usually like to pay students tuition to go off and learn how to be an entrepreneur. So we've inverted it and call it intrapreneurship to help firms be more innovative. And then we have a fantastic center, a Center for Entrepreneurship. It's been endowed, so we have money for programming. We do some terrific programming, business plan competitions. We have an entrepreneurial village every year where we bring back our alumni and our students that have started businesses. Those things have led to rankings. We're once again ranked in Entrepreneurship Magazine as a top 25 program this year. That's the 9th time that we've been ranked. Rankings really matter because today, as we're beginning to see with the Gen Zers, they are really into a value proposition. So all of these things add up to a very innovative environment, both in higher education and business. And we pride ourselves on being flexible and being in the private sector for higher education. I tell faculty that we have to win in the higher education space because we're competing against everybody else that's out there, and if we have a student with a bad experience, that's going to cost me money down the road. So if they're thinking that way in terms of giving our students the best opportunity they can and trying to continuously give them innovative, engaging, hands-on experiences, I think we'll continue to do well.
Was it hard for you coming from, I mean, you know, you did a lot of undergrad, grad, your PhD at Bama, then you went to spend a number of years at the University of Richmond.
Right.
So coming to Nashville, to Belmont, was it hard to get the support to say, we're going to create these entrepreneurship programs?
It's the easiest program of all that I've ever seen. It's the easiest to raise money for. It's been the easiest to attract students to. It's just an opportunity that students, particularly now, see an opportunity to do something different than their parents did. Go the corporate route, have to deal with corporate scandals, with downsizing, with all of the things that go on in the corporate world. And they see a real opportunity to do something different. But when we got here and started this program, it took off immediately. It was time the community, I think the business community and the entrepreneurial community were looking for these kind of students.
I think one of the things, you know, I've been in Nashville a number of years, and I've had a number of Belmont grads that have worked, you know, on my teams. And I think that when you think about Jack Massey, who started 3 publicly traded companies, I think what you guys bring to your program not only is the innovation and entrepreneurship, but you're also bringing, hey, this is a serious business. We have to be focused on compliance. And I've always felt like the students that you put out of your programs just come very well prepared.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about our history, because entrepreneurship is truly in our DNA. Jack Massey's still the only person to take 3 companies public on the New York Stock Exchange, of course, one of them being HCA. And as a result of that, we put it in our mission statement to educate entrepreneurial and ethical future business leaders prepared for the dynamic global economy. So we as you know, with mission statements, we chose each one of those words very carefully. And today we have centers for entrepreneurship, business ethics, as well as international business. But it goes back to Massey. And we give every student who comes in our graduate program the book that's been written on him by Bill Carey here from Nashville. He wrote it at Belmont, called The Master of the Big Board. And we literally started orientation, talking about the entrepreneurial nature of our program, flexibility of our program, and how we think that's going to benefit those students. So it really is in our DNA.
What would you say to somebody, when I look at innovation, how would you tell a student who might be considering getting into entrepreneurship or trying to figure out how they get into a program, how do they get in touch with their innovative side?
That's a great question. More and more I'm finding students who they don't really discover entrepreneurship, they come in with that sort of spirit. Back when I was teaching at Richmond, it's been a while, but we would ask students back then in introductory classes, how many of you envision yourself starting your own business? And I'll guarantee you there was less than 10%. And today, if you ask that question in an introductory class, more than half of the students will raise their hands. And so they really haven't been sold on entrepreneurship or the idea of innovation. They just come in thinking they had rather be their own boss, I think is really what it is. And I do think they've, especially the Gen Zers that I mentioned before, who came in after, they were raised in the formative years in 2008, 2009, 2010. So they're not quite as entitled as some of the previous generations.
The crash.
Absolutely. And they're coming in looking for a value proposition and the ability to do something for themselves. So but look around at the programs. We have some of the best facilities in the country. After we remodeled in 2016, we created a innovation and collaboration lab, and it's just simply there so groups and individuals who want to go in and use the lab, it has Mediascapes, which are a piece of equipment that will allow students to plug in 4 different digital devices and look at their virtual material up on 4 different screens. And so it's great for group work. It eliminates the free rider, because if you don't have anything to show on your screen, pretty much everybody knows you didn't do your work. But it's a great space. And then we have a financial information center that's got, once again, state-of-the-art technology with data walls and tickers and 80-inch monitors and so forth, so they can all be engaged. And that's led to some terrific results, both in terms of entrepreneurship and as well as in our finance area, where we just had 2 students win it was called the TVA Investment Challenge, and they did a 30% return on their portfolio over the last year, and excited the Board of Trustees when they told them about the returns. They wanted them to manage the university's endowment at that point.
What a great opportunity that would be.
So it's facilities and it's faculty and it's hands-on experiences, and really we have tried hard over the last 15 years to give students experiences outside the classroom so they can be with groups and organizations and even travel to student events and organizations with like-minded people. So they can find things to do outside the classroom that are co-curricular, and I think that's really helped.
Now, looking at Nashville, we're known as the healthcare capital, of the world, and Dr. Frist, was recently came by our offices and did a Q&A, and he referred to Nashville as kind of the Silicon Valley for healthcare. Yeah. What is it that we need to be doing in the Nashville community to maintain that mantra?
I have a pretty strong opinion about this. I think in the music industry, Nashville is the Silicon Valley, because that's where the creativity is. That's where the musicians are. People come here to record because of the great musicians and the great, here again, ecosystem that we've got. In the healthcare industry, what we have are organizations, I think, that are successful, and we have been tremendously successful with organizations like your own. And when you look at what we've done in the physician managed practice area, but we're still just getting into biotech. We don't do a whole lot with medical equipment, medical devices yet, but physician managed practices and hospital corporations are truly, this is the capital for those things, but we have to focus on quality outcomes and how to measure and how to deliver those things going forward. We just wrote a grant at Belmont. The dean of the pharmacy school and health sciences and myself put together a grant to go to Robert Woods Johnson about the culture of health and what would be the most important thing we could contribute to a culture of health. And we came up with a quality center, essentially, which would try to teach lean, Six Sigma, quality metrics, and how to use process improvement to get to quality in healthcare, because I believe that's the way in the future everyone's going to get paid. Mm-hmm. So it's fine to have facilities, and it's fine to have, lots of different organizations and so forth, but they've got to produce quality. And so whatever we can do to promote that in all of our hospital organizations, I think that's what will put us on the map.
And when you said that, I think that in Nashville, probably because of the diversity of healthcare companies we have, certainly in my experience, that people coming in, even entry level, have an opportunity to contribute to that culture of quality. And it's always, I've spoken at Belmont a couple times, and I always tell the students, in this day and age, you can come into a company and you can make a difference and an impact right away. You don't need to wait around for 10 or 15 years, because a lot of the technologies and the things that we're working on were just invented recently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I agree with that 100%. Focus on how do you give a client, a patient, a customer a quality experience is going to be, we'll make a name for anybody. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday. This is a little off the subject, but really it's consistent. He's an entrepreneur. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's 44 years old, and he's bought into robotic lawnmowers, and they will cut your grass for you in 6 or 7 hours. It looks like a little robotic vacuum cleaner, and you never have to touch it. And he's got they call goats.
Okay.
And so he's got people who take them out and put them around the neighborhoods and then come back and collect them. And you're looking at that going, that is a fantastic idea. But it's really this idea of this is a city that's open-minded enough to accept new products and services. And his whole focus is on, you got to have a quality guy in landscaping. Effectively, it's a different model, but it's the same thing.
What would you think when you're at Belmont and you look out at some of the students that are graduating? Is there anything that comes to mind that you say, I can tell that's a Belmont, I can tell that's a Massey grad?
Absolutely, and I hear this all the time. We are, it's what Massey wanted us to be. Also, he said ethical, entrepreneurial, and practical. That's a little old-fashioned word, but I think relevant is certainly a better word. And so when you talk to the CEOs and the others, HCA, the banks that have hired Massey graduates, they say, number one, they got a tremendous work ethic. They've learned something somewhere along the line that is practical, pragmatic. It's a learn it today, apply it tomorrow kind of philosophy. And, as I like to say, they don't expect to be vice presidents next week. So when you put all that, hard workers, they've got an education that is relevant, because we try to do what the business community tells us they need us to do, and not high theory. We do some, but where we need to, but we're listening to the business community constantly about what they need. Our students graduate, they hit the ground running, great work ethic. They're humble, and they work hard, and they've got a good education. And I think I just hear it repeatedly that people that are hiring our graduates are happy with them.
Well, I know I appreciate the work you guys have been doing, even for the business community, through your Executive Learning Network, which we're big supporters of, and I know that my team, we love attending those each month. It's been very helpful for us in our daily work lives.
This last one that we had was fantastic. I kept thinking I had to go, but I couldn't leave. She just did a great job.
Well, and then I think later on this month you're having the first one of the first F-35 female pilots coming in.
Yes, she is.
So yeah,
it's
the
fantastic.
diversity is excellent too, just in the range of topics you guys have.
Yeah.
What's next up for the Massey School? Do you have anything on the horizon that we should be aware of?
Well, as we passed all of the analytical data and scoreboards and other information that you have in overload, in abundance, we're going to have one of the best analytics programs around soon. We've been working very hard on it for a couple of years, adding analytics and analytic talent and intellectual firepower, if you will, in all of our disciplines. So we've added marketing faculty who are doing a lot of consumer research and using a lot of data analytics. We've added multiple MIS, Management Information Systems, faculty who are using SAP, for an example, across their coursework, and then at the end of the course doing visual analytics. So that faculty is working hard to learn the skill set they need to teach data visualization using the Tableau and the new Python and other software that they need to be able to use so that we can teach our students more data analytics, because there's not going to be less data. And I make the statement frequently, I think that's the area that will feed students in 45 years. If they learn how to manage data, extract data, analyze data, that's a skill set that will feed them going forward. And we just need to do more and more and a better job of that until we get all of our students with some programming skills. They don't have to be programmers, but understand enough to be able to do some basic programming, understand big data, predictive analytics. Those types of topics are the things that students are going to really, students with those skills, I could place 50 of them today, in the job market if I had them. So,
when we were touring and we were talking about some of the social media things that we do, and everybody gets excited about the social shares and kind of the visual piece of the graphic design, and it's nice. But I think I told you, the rubber meets the road for us when we can actually look at the data, because we're not doing it just for fun. Like, we actually have an ROI that's attached to it. And I think that's one of the things that's always set our teams apart in our approach to digital marketing.
Right. Well, I have a data wall, for an example, in my financial information center, and that's sort of my toy, because it has currencies, it has commodities, it has the different exchanges, and I like to go by there and play with it and look at it. But sort of at the end of the day, it's how well are our finance students doing, and can they manage a portfolio? And we have a CFA competition, we have this TVA competition. A lot of our student organizations, like Enactus, I should mention, that won the world championship.
Congratulations.
With a student project where they recycled mattresses, and triple bottom line project. It's keeping mattresses out of landfills, employed formerly incarcerated men, and then recycled all 100% of the mattress. And it was just a phenomenal project that, as I said, ultimately won a World Cup.
Excellent.
for the project. But it involved a lot of financials at the end of the day. The judges were all business people who were asking them, tell me about your front end costs. Tell me how you save with the labor that you're using. Tell me what your recycling percentages are and what you make. And we had a financial model because they understood that part, how important it was.
Do you think, what's the impact then of some of these television shows that this generation grew up, watching, like Shark Tank, when they're getting those kind of questions? I mean, it seems to be that's kind of the era, the environment we're in. Is that's a good thing in that case?
Well, we do our own, and nearly every school that has an entrepreneurship program does some sort of business plan competition. Of course, there's one that the Entrepreneurship Center and the Entrepreneurship Organization, they put on. So one of the questions is, why is Nashville so entrepreneurial? And here again, it's because of the ecosystem and the support you get from the various organizations. But that's the most popular event of the year, and we give away a little bit of money, but we'll usually have 3 or 4 students or teams of students who've started businesses that they're going to make it. Recently, the creator of the escape games. Have you seen those?
I've been through them.
You have? Well, then you know all about them.
I've escaped and not escaped.
That's a Belmont graduate who created that.
I did not know that.
He had a very significant round of funding recently, and so he's expanding across the United States.
Wow.
Yeah, it's terrific.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, there's multiple locations here in Nashville now.
Right.
That's what a great model. Well, listen, Dr. Raines, thank you so much for joining us here today. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come and share. We're just so supportive of everything that you and your team are doing out there at Belmont.
Well, you guys are doing great work. Thanks for showing it to me, and keep it up.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.